In recent months, tensions in the strategic waters of the South China Sea have surged to levels unseen in years, as long-standing disputes between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of the Philippines flare into a series of dramatic maritime confrontations. The disputes, rooted in overlapping territorial claims, have drawn in major powers and regional allies, raising fears that a calculated incident might inadvertently escalate into a broader conflict. At the center of this crisis are contested waters and features such as the Spratly Islands and Scarborough Shoal, both claimed by Manila under its sovereign rights and by Beijing under its extensive 9-line claim that stretches across most of the South China Sea. An international tribunal ruled against China's territorial assertions in 2016, but Beijing continues to assert control, prompting frequent clashes with Philippine boats and patrol vessels. On August 11th, 2025, an incident off Scarborough Shoal triggered WID. This spread international attention. A China Coast Guard vessel and a warship from the People's Liberation Army Navy collided with one another while attempting to intercept a Philippine Coast Guard patrol boat. Manila released video footage showing the chaotic scene. Philippine authorities said the Chinese vessels had pursued the smaller Philippine patrol craft at high speed before the collision occurred. Chinese officials, while acknowledging the operation, described their maneuver as lawful action aimed at driving Philippine vessels away from what they consider Chinese waters. Beijing's narrative stressed that the Coast Guard took necessary measures in accordance with the law to uphold its claims. Manila countered that the presence of militia-style vessels and Chinese government ships represented a serious infringement on sovereign rights and maritime jurisdiction. This collision was not the first. Philippine Coast Guard vessels have been repeatedly challenged by Chinese warships, COAs, T-Guard patrols, and maritime militia craft in contested waters. Manila's Coast Guard reported numerous high-risk intercepts, water cannon blasts, and dangerous naval maneuvers in recent years, underscoring the volatility of operations around disputed shoals and reefs. Beyond the physical confrontations, Manila's Coast Guard also issued formal warnings on May 8, 2026, to a Chinese research vessel operating near Iroquois Reef, part of the Spratly chain. Philippine aircraft radioed warnings to what they described as unauthorized marine scientific research operations in waters Manila considers within its exclusive economic zone. Chinese officials maintained that their survey mission complied with international law and reiterated their historic claims. The Philippine government highlighted that more than 40 Chinese-linked maritime militia vessels were also spotted anchored around disputed reefs and near Philippine-held Thifu Island. Analysts say these incursions and shadowing operations are part of a broader pattern of Chinese gunboat diplomacy in the area, a strategy involving the use of naval, paramilitary, and militia assets to assert maritime claims without triggering overt hostilities. This posture, critics argue, has eroded goodwill with Southeast Asian neighbors while reinforcing ties between the United States and ASEAN states concerned about China's rise. In response, the Philippines has repeatedly protested at diplomatic levels and sought international support, asserting that China's actions violate the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNSCLOS, a decision Beijing refuses to acknowledge. Manila has also indicated that it will pursue all available diplomatic and legal avenues to protect its interests. As tensions mount in the waters southwest of Manila, the strategic alliance framework involving the Philippines and the United States, and increasingly Japan, has expanded in scope and visibility. The Philippines and the United States have long been treaty allies through the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, which obliges both nations to aid one another if either comes under armed attack in the Pacific. In practice, this has meant closer military cooperation at sea, in air patrols, and through joint exercises designed to bolster regional security and deter aggression. In early May 2026, joint maritime exercises under the annual Balikatan framework saw Japan participate alongside the United States, Australia, Canada, France, and New Zealand, a first for the expanded coalition. These drills involved over 17,000 troops and included live fire components such as Type 88 anti-ship missile launches that struck a decommissioned Philippine naval vessel near Luzon's northern coast. Defense officials described the exercises as a demonstration of coordinated maritime defense capabilities and a signal of collective resolve to maintain peace and stability in the region. Against this backdrop of rising uncertainty, U.S. naval deployments in the South China Sea have drawn particular attention. American warships routinely transit contested waters under the banner of freedom of navigation operations, affirming the right of warships to operate in international waters and airspace under international law. These operations serve both legal and strategic purposes, reinforcing international norms and signaling U.S. commitment to regional security. Satellite tracking in recent months has shown U.S. amphibious assault ships and escorts moving through the South China Sea, part of broader U.S. Navy positioning across the Indo-Pacific. While some assets have since continued on missions to other theaters, their passage through these waters underscores the Pentagon's enduring focus on the region. Chinese military statements have at times accused U.S. ships of illegal intrusion into waters near disputed features, framing these transits as provocative and an unnecessary escalation. Washington maintains that its vessels operate in accordance with international law and have the right to conduct such missions anywhere outside to territorial seas. The geopolitical pressures at sea occur alongside notable political turbulence within the Philippines itself. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., who took office in 2022, continues to navigate both the volatile South China Sea dispute and intense domestic political contestation. Marcos, whose family has long been central to Philippine political life, faces challenges on multiple fronts, from energy crises tied to external conflicts to high-profile legal and impeachment proceedings involving top political figures. Meanwhile, Vice President Sara Duterte, a political figure with strong support and ties to law enforcement history, was impeached by the Philippine House of Representatives in May 2026 on charges including unexplained wealth and misuse of public funds. The impeachment now moves to the Senate for trial, a process adding to Manila's domestic political strain. These internal dynamics unfold against a backdrop of economic and strategic realignments in Southeast Asia, where smaller states are increasingly attentive to broader security risks associated with great power competition in their waters. Filipino fisherfolk and civilian communities near disputed shoals have voiced concerns about their livelihoods amid restricted fishing access and rising naval activity. The South China Sea remains one of the world's most crucial maritime corridors, with an estimated $3 trillion in global trade transiting its waters annually. It is also rich in fisheries, natural gas, and oil deposits, resources that underpin the economic and strategic stakes for claimant nations. Countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and the Philippines have competing claims, each recognizing the sea's importance to their national interests. China's expansive vision, backed by artificial island construction, military installations, and frequent patrols, continues to alarm regional neighbors. Critics argue that Beijing's actions risk destabilizing existing norms and could spark conflicts beyond the bilateral Philippines-China dispute. For its part, Beijing asserts that these measures are defensive and necessary to safeguard its security and territorial integrity. Despite the risk of miscalculation at sea, regional diplomacy has not been absent. Manila and Beijing have resumed high-level talks aimed at reducing tensions and finding areas of cooperation, including energy exploration and management of disputed resources. However, these discussions operate in an environment of mutual distrust, shaped by recent clashes and competing legal interpretations of maritime rights. Militarily, the involvement of external powers, particularly the United States and Japan, adds layers of deterrence and complexity. Their participation is intended to reassure allies like the Philippines, but also carries the risk of drawing great power rivalry more directly into Southeast Asian waters. For now, the South China Sea remains a delicate flashpoint, The recent string of collisions, near misses, and diplomatic challenges reflect both the deep historical roots of the disputes and the evolving dynamics of 21st century geopolitics. As nations assert their claims and alliances deepen, the watchword among analysts continues to be caution, lest a single incident spiral into a broader confrontation that no side truly desires.